Hello and welcome back. For this video we're going to show how to clear fractions from the middle of your equations. Here are the rules. There's pretty much only 3 steps you need to know. First thing you need to do is identify the least common denominator. We call that the LCD of all terms in the equation. Second thing you'll need to do is multiply each term by the LCD and simplify. Finally, you'll just solve the resulting equivalent equation for the unknown variable. Our first example, we're going to start off really simple here. We're just going to use one fraction, and there's only one denominator, and we can clearly see that the denominator has a 3 in it. So the LCD of this problem would be 3, so LCD equals 3. And then I'm going to multiply each term. I've got 1, 2, 3 terms here to multiply by 3. So I'm going to write it as 3 over 1 times 2 over 1x. And since those are both over 1, I don't really have to put over 1. Then I'm going to do 3 over 1 times 2 over 3 equals, and on the right hand side I'm just going to show it as 8 times 3. I'm going to multiply the first two here, so 3 times 2 will give us 6x minus, and this multiplication straight across will give us 6 over, and then the bottom that will give us 3 equals, and then 8 times 3 is going to give us 24. Now I just need to simplify a little bit, so 6x minus, and then 6 divided by 3 is 2, and that equals 24. And now you just continue solving for x like you normally would do with reverse order of operations or reverse PEMDAS. For our next example, our least common denominator, now we have to take in consideration that there's a 4, a 3, and a 6 in my denominator. So the least common denominator of 4, 3, and 6 would be 12, so, or the least common multiple. So I'm going to multiply each one of those by 12. So 12 over 1 times 3/4 x minus 12 over 1 times 2/3 equals 12 over 1 times 5/6. Now the next thing I'm going to do is reduce. The 4 and the 12 on the first multiplication reduce, so the 4 becomes a 1 and the 12 will become a 3, so that reduces. Now I end up with 3 times 3, which will give me 9x. And over on the next one, I'm going to bring down my minus sign. 3 and the 12 will reduce, 1 and 4, and that leaves me with 4 times 2 on the top, which is 8. And the last one, the 6 and the 12 will reduce, so we have a 1 and a 2, and 2 times 5 equals 10. So using the least common denominator, you see every denominator, the 4, the 3, and the 6 will all divide equally or evenly into 12, leaving something left over in the top that you can multiply with. And this equation here becomes much simpler to solve. The last example here, we have parentheses with fractions inside and outside of the parentheses. Now you can multiply by a number that is capable of clearing all fractions at the same time. However, it's a lot quicker to think of this as a two-step part. So we're going to find the LCD of the fractions that are on the outside of the parentheses. So I'm looking at the 4, the 3, and the 6. And the LCD of those would be 12. So I'm going to multiply each one of them by 12. So 12 over 1 times 3/4 x minus 12 over 1 times 2/3. And the parentheses, I'm going to just leave it as is because I'm eventually going to carry through whatever's on the outside remaining. And I need to multiply 12 over 1 times 5/6. You'll notice that I did not take the 12 and distribute it inside the parentheses. That's what's going to happen with whatever this calculation is here. I'm going to distribute it inside. So I'm not going to do that distribution just yet. Let's simplify what's on the outside. So the 4 reduces to a 1 and a 3, and I end up with 9x. Bring down my minus sign. The 3 and the 12 reduce to 1 and 4. That leaves us with 8. I still have the 1/5 x and the minus 4 on the inside equals. And on the right hand side we have the 6 reducing to a 1 and the 12 reducing to a 2. 2 times 5 will give me 10. And now before I reduce or clear the fraction that's inside, I want to distribute the 8 here. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute that. So 9x minus, now this is 8 over 1, which when I multiply straight across will give me 8/5 x. Minus, and then of course the 8 times the 4 will give us 32. And the right hand side is still 10. Now I have to do an LCD again, LCD, and the only thing that I have in the denominator here is a 5, so the LCD here is really easy. So I'm just going to multiply everything in the problem by 5. And I'm going to do that over here on the side. So 5 times 9x minus 5 over 1 times 8 over 5x minus 5 times 32, and running out of space here, and the other side is just going to be 5 times 10. 5 times 10, and this will end up giving us 45x minus the 5's reduced to 1, leaving me with 8x, and then the 32 times 5, that's going to give me a negative 160, and the right hand side is going to give me 50. And now I can continue solving for the variable using the regular steps for solving multi-steps equation.